let their blindness make you forget your value. You are not defined by how people see you today. You are shaped by the choices you make when life tests you. Daniel was poor, but he was not empty. He was ignored, but he was not worthless. He was laughed at, but he was not finished. One honest choice became the seed of a different future. And maybe, in your life right now, there is also a choice waiting for you. A choice to keep going. A choice to stay kind. A choice to believe again. A choice to become better, even when nobody notices. Because every story has a lesson. And sometimes, the smallest choice becomes the beginning of the biggest transformation. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to Mind Story Planet for more emotional animated stories with powerful life lessons. And before you leave, write this in the comments. One choice can change everything. Years passed. Daniel did not become successful overnight. We'll meet again in the next story. That is not how real growth happens. He studied when others were sleeping. He worked during holidays. He failed exams sometimes. He made mistakes. He felt tired. He felt lonely. There were days when he wanted to quit. But every time life became heavy, he remembered two things. His mother's words, "Your heart must never become hard." And Mr. Hayes's words, "Character decides whether you deserve to walk through the door." Daniel grew older. He finished school. He earned a university scholarship. He studied psychology, business, and technology. He became interested in how people make decisions, why some give up, why some keep going, and why small choices can change an entire life. But Daniel never forgot where he came from. Years later, he returned to his old neighborhood. The streets looked smaller than he remembered. The houses looked older. The school still stood in the same place. But Daniel was different. He was no longer the invisible boy. He had built a foundation called Second Chance Pathways, created to help poor students with talent, discipline, and strong character. He did not want to help only the smartest students. He wanted to help the students nobody saw. The quiet ones, the hungry ones, the ashamed ones, the ones wearing old shoes, the ones who had dreams but no one clapping for them. One day, Daniel attended a community event at his old school. The room was full of students, parents, teachers, and local leaders. Daniel stood on the stage, speaking calmly. "When I was young," he said, "I thought poverty was my biggest enemy. But later I learned something deeper. Poverty can limit your options, but bitterness can destroy your future." The room became quiet. He continued, "You cannot always control where you start. But every day you make choices that shape who you become." After the speech, people lined up to speak with him. Some thanked him. Some asked for advice. Some asked about scholarships. Then Daniel saw a familiar face. Marcus. He looked older now, tired, nervous. His confidence was gone. For a moment, Daniel remembered the classroom, the laughter, the jokes, the sentence Marcus once said, "You can't even help yourself." Marcus approached slowly. "Daniel," he said, "I don't know if you remember me." Daniel looked at him. "I remember you." Marcus looked down. "I was not kind to you." Daniel said nothing. Marcus continued, "I was young, proud, stupid. I thought making others feel small made me look bigger." His voice became quiet. "I'm sorry." Daniel looked at him for a long moment. The room around them seemed to fade. This was another choice. He could humiliate Marcus. He could remind him of every joke. He could make him feel the same pain. But Daniel had learned something important. Revenge feels powerful for a moment, but forgiveness frees you for a lifetime. Daniel extended his hand. "I forgive you, Marcus." Marcus looked surprised. Then Daniel asked, "How can I help?" Marcus's eyes filled with tears. "My little brother is smart," he said, "but we can't afford school materials. I heard your foundation helps students." Daniel smiled gently. "Bring him tomorrow." That evening, Daniel visited his mother. She was older now, but her smile was the same. On the wall of her house, there was a framed photo of Daniel receiving an award. But beside it, there was something even more important. An old piece of paper. The first scholarship letter from Mr. Hayes. Daniel sat beside his mother and told her about Marcus. She listened quietly. Then she said, "You did the right thing." Daniel smiled. "You always told me not to let my heart become hard." His mother touched his hand. "And you listened." Daniel looked around the small house where everything had started. He realized success was not just money. It was not just respect. It was not just proving people wrong. Real success was becoming someone your younger self would feel safe with. Real success was having power and still choosing kindness. Real success was remembering pain without becoming cruel. Daniel had once thought that the wallet changed his life. But now he understood the truth. The wallet did not change his life. The choice did. Because life does not always change when we receive something. Sometimes life changes when we return something. Sometimes the door opens after we choose honesty when no one is watching. Sometimes the future begins in the smallest moment, when nobody is clapping, nobody is recording, and nobody knows the battle inside your heart. Daniel was late for school that morning, but instead of running to class, he followed the address on the ID card. The address led him to a tall building downtown. It was the kind of place Daniel had only seen from far away. Glass doors, clean floors, security guards, people in suits walking quickly like every second belonged to them. Daniel stood outside for a moment, holding the wallet. He felt small. A security guard looked at him and frowned. "Can I help you?" Daniel swallowed. "I found this wallet. It belongs to Mr. Robert Hayes." The guard looked surprised. He took the wallet and checked the ID. "Wait here." Daniel waited near the entrance while people passed him without noticing. Some looked at his old shoes. Others looked away. A few minutes later, an older man came rushing toward him. He had gray hair, kind eyes, and a worried face. "Are you the boy who found my wallet?" Daniel nodded. "Yes, sir." The man opened the wallet quickly. Everything was still there. The money, the cards, the photo. Mr. Hayes stared at Daniel. "You didn't take anything?" Daniel shook his head. "No, sir. It wasn't mine." The man was silent. Then he asked, "Do you know how many people would have kept this?" Daniel looked down. "I thought about it." Mr. Hayes looked at him more carefully. "And why didn't you?" Daniel paused. Then he said, "Because my mother is poor, but she taught me not to steal from someone else's pain." Those words hit Mr. Hayes deeply. For a moment he did not speak. Mr. Hayes took some money from the wallet and tried to give it to Daniel. "Take this," he said. "You deserve a reward." Daniel looked at the money. It was more than his mother made in several days. His stomach tightened. He wanted to take it. He needed to take it. But something inside him said no. "Thank you, sir," Daniel said softly. "But I only returned what was yours." Mr. Hayes frowned. "You are sure?" Daniel nodded. "Yes, sir." Mr. Hayes studied him like he had just discovered something rare. "What is your name?" "Daniel." "Daniel what?" "Daniel Carter." "Where do you go to school?" Daniel hesitated. He did not know why the man wanted to know, but he answered. Mr. Hayes smiled gently. "Daniel Carter, one day people will remember your name." Daniel did not know what to say. He simply nodded and left. When he arrived at school, he was late. The teacher asked why. Before Daniel could explain, Marcus whispered loudly, "Maybe his broken shoes were too slow." The class laughed again. Daniel sat down quietly. But something felt different. For the first time, their laughter did not enter his heart the same way. Because that morning Daniel had faced a choice. And he had chosen who he wanted to be. A week passed, then two. Nothing changed. Daniel still wore old shoes. His mother still worked long hours. Marcus still laughed at him. The bills were still on the table. Daniel began to wonder if doing the right thing really mattered. Then one afternoon, the school principal entered the classroom. Everyone became quiet. "Daniel Carter," the principal said, "please come with me." The class turned to look at him. Marcus smiled. "Oh, Daniel is in trouble." Daniel stood up, nervous. He followed the principal to the office. Inside, sitting beside the desk, was Mr. Hayes. Daniel froze. "Hello, Daniel," Mr. Hayes said. Daniel looked confused. "Sir," Mr. Hayes smiled. "I hope you don't mind. I spoke with your principal." Daniel's heart started beating fast. Had he done something wrong? Mr. Hayes continued, "I run a foundation that helps students with strong character and big potential. Your grades are good. Your teachers say you are quiet, hard-working, and respectful." Daniel looked at the principal. The principal smiled. Mr. Hayes leaned forward. "I want to offer you a full scholarship." Daniel did not understand at first. "A scholarship?" "Yes. School fees, books, uniform, meals, and mentorship." Daniel's eyes filled with emotion. For a moment he could not speak. He thought about his mother, the bills, the bread, the nights of pretending not to hear her cry quietly. And then he asked the only question that came to his mind. "Why me?" Mr. Hayes answered. "Because intelligence can open doors, Daniel, but character decides whether you deserve to walk through them." Daniel lived in a small house at the edge of the city. It was the kind of place most people passed by without looking twice. The walls were old, the roof made noise when the rain came, and during cold nights, the wind entered through little cracks around the windows. But to Daniel, it was home. He lived there with his mother, a woman who worked from sunrise until night, cleaning houses, washing clothes, and doing every small job she could find. She was tired most days, but she never allowed Daniel to see her give up. Every morning she would wake him up gently and say, "Daniel, life is not easy, but your heart must never become hard." Daniel never fully understood those words. At school, he was the quiet boy in the back of the classroom. His shoes were old. His uniform was faded. His backpack had been repaired so many times that it looked like it had survived a war. Some students made jokes about him. They called him the invisible boy, not because he was actually invisible, but because nobody paid attention to him unless they wanted to laugh. When the teacher asked students to form groups, Daniel was usually the last one chosen. When classmates had birthday parties, he was never invited. When students talked about their dreams, they spoke about becoming doctors, business owners, pilots, engineers, and famous people. But when Daniel once said he wanted to build something that would help people, the class laughed. One boy named Marcus leaned back in his chair and said, "Help people? You can't even help yourself." Everyone laughed. Daniel looked down at his notebook. He did not reply, but inside, something hurt. That evening, Daniel walked home slowly. The city looked different when you had no money. Bright restaurants looked like another world. Store windows reflected things he could never buy. Families walked together, smiling, carrying bags of food, while Daniel counted the coins in his pocket. He had only enough for bread. When he entered the house, he saw his mother sitting at the small kitchen table. There were papers in front of her, bills. Her face looked calm, but Daniel knew that kind of calm. It was the kind adults used when they were trying not to worry children. "Mom," Daniel asked, "is everything okay?" She smiled. "Yes, my son, everything will be okay." But Daniel saw her hands. They were shaking. That night dinner was simple: bread, tea, and silence. Daniel wanted to ask more questions, but he did not want to make her feel worse. So he ate quietly. Later, when he was pretending to sleep, he heard his mother speaking softly on the phone. "I just need a little more time," she said. "Please, I will pay." There was a pause. Then she said, "No, please don't cut it off. I have a child." Daniel closed his eyes. For the first time, he understood that poverty was not just having less money. Poverty was watching someone you love carry fear silently. And in that moment, Daniel made a promise to himself. One day, he would change their life. He did not know how. He did not know when. But he promised. The next morning, Daniel left home early. His mother gave him a small piece of bread wrapped in paper. "I wish I had more for you," she said. Daniel smiled. "This is enough, Mom." But it was not enough. His stomach was still empty. His mind was tired. And as he walked through the busy street, he felt the weight of everything: school, bills, hunger, embarrassment, and the quiet fear that maybe Marcus was right. Maybe he really could not help anyone. Then, near a bus stop, Daniel saw something lying on the ground: a black leather wallet. People were walking past it, too busy to notice. Daniel stopped. He looked around. Nobody seemed to be searching for it. Slowly, he picked it up. Inside, there was cash. A lot of cash. More money than Daniel had ever held in his hands. His heart started beating fast. For a moment, the whole world became silent. With that money, his mother could pay the bills. They could buy food. He could get new shoes. He could stop being the boy everyone laughed at. Daniel held the wallet tightly. Then he saw an ID card inside. The wallet belonged to a man named Mr. Robert Hayes. There was also a small photo: a little girl smiling beside an older man. Daniel looked at the money again. Then he remembered his mother's words: "Life is not easy, but your heart must never become hard." He stood there for a long time. This was not just money. This was a test. And Daniel knew that whatever he chose next would say something about the person he was becoming. What would you do if the whole world ignored you? Not because you were bad, not because you were lazy, but because you were poor. This is the story of a boy named Daniel, a quiet kid who had nothing, no expensive clothes, no powerful family, no one clapping for him, and no one expecting him to become anything. But one morning, while walking to school with an empty stomach and a broken backpack, Daniel found something on the street that could have changed his life forever. Money. Enough money to solve every problem in his house. But the choice he made next would shock everyone. And years later, the same people who laughed at him would be standing in front of him, asking for help. What would you choose if life placed two paths in front of you? One path had love, loyalty, peace, and someone who truly cared about you. The other path had money, luxury, expensive gifts, beautiful houses, and the kind of life people admire from the outside. For a young woman named Sophia, the answer seemed obvious. She chose money. She walked away from the one person who loved her when she had nothing. At first, everyone thought she had made the perfect decision. But years later, standing alone in a mansion that felt colder than an empty street, Sophia finally understood the truth. Sometimes the most expensive life can cost you the only thing that was priceless. Sophia grew up in a small town where everybody knew everybody. Her house was simple, the walls were old, the furniture had been repaired many times. And every month, her mother counted money carefully at the kitchen table, trying to make sure there would be enough for food, rent, and school expenses. Sophia hated that table, not because of the table itself, but because of what it represented: struggle, waiting, limitations. She remembered watching other girls at school arrive with new shoes, expensive phones, beautiful bags, and perfect hair. They laughed loudly, took pictures, and spoke about restaurants, vacations, and shopping malls Sophia had only seen online. Sophia was not lazy. She was smart, ambitious, and hardworking. But deep inside, she carried a wound. She was tired of feeling small. She was tired of being the girl who had to say, maybe next time, because she could not afford to join her friends. She was tired of pretending she did not care about things she secretly wanted. Every night, Sophia looked at the city lights from her bedroom window and whispered to herself, "One day I will never be poor again." That dream slowly became more than a goal. It became her identity. Sophia started believing that money was not just comfort. Money was respect. Money was protection. Money was freedom. And anyone without it was invisible. There was one person who never made Sophia feel invisible. His name was Ethan. Ethan was not rich. He worked part-time at a small repair shop after school and helped his father deliver groceries on weekends. His clothes were clean but simple. His phone was old. He did not have a car, expensive watches, or a powerful family name. But Ethan had something many people around Sophia did not have. He paid attention. He noticed when she was quiet. He noticed when she pretended to be okay. He noticed when she skipped lunch because she did not want anyone to know she had no money that day. And whenever Sophia felt embarrassed about her life, Ethan never judged her. One afternoon, after school, Sophia sat alone behind the library. Her eyes were full of tears, but she quickly wiped them when Ethan approached. "You don't have to hide it," he said gently. Sophia looked away. "I'm fine." Ethan sat beside her, leaving enough space so she did not feel trapped. "I know you're tired," he said, "but you are not less valuable because of what you don't have." Sophia laughed softly.